Hey, everybody, before the podcast gets started, I want to make a quick announcement. Right after we recorded this podcast, we found out that Maui is in a state of emergency. Fire has really devastated the island, and thankfully our friends are safe, but the situation is still very serious and help is needed. So if you've been following the news, you might be aware of how serious the situation is. If you'd like to contribute and make a real difference, we're going to gather some links and resources where you can donate at graceandgiggles.co/donate. We'll also be sure to link it wherever we can. Our friends who are there are actively working to help give relief. So we're going to try to curate all the resources that we trust. And if you feel moved to donate, please do, because every little bit will help. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emmy. I'm 2. Welcome to Grace, Giggles, and Growing Pains by Mommy and my daddy, Jenn and Brandon Rogers.
Welcome to the podcast. We have a special one today, which doesn't seem to be about parenting, but I think it is, because it ultimately led us here. So there was a comment that was left on our video. I don't know if it was last week's podcast on YouTube.
No, I think it was 2 videos ago.
2 videos ago, yeah. And I actually wanted to read it, but both of our phones are being used right now to record, so we don't have it in front of us. But what was the gist of it? Do you remember?
It was, please introduce us to who you are now and who you were then, and what happened since we left Korea.
Yeah.
And then another question was, why did we move from Maui to Texas?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think what was so beautiful is she said something really nice about like pages torn out of a good book.
Yeah.
And the timing just seemed right. I mean, we've been posting a few videos on the YouTube channel now with no warning to anybody that may have been interested in, I think Tina is her name. Yeah. And because it was asked for and because, we're really just doing this thing because we're enjoying it, I think it's worth the explanation. So yeah, it's good timing overall, and it's a big subject because it's how many years?
We left Korea in 2017.
And it's
now
2023, so that's like 6 years.
6 years.
And we posted a little when we were in Maui.
Yeah.
But it was not anything that so like, I guess big picture up front is we posted way less. We lost more subscribers. But it doesn't mean we weren't trying stuff, right? So let me back up a little bit. We were in Maui. So we were in Korea. Yeah. I was working at Reebok at the time. And you were at home and you were doing this as a hobby.
I was teaching. Yeah, I was teaching part-time.
That's right.
And I was doing YouTube as a hobby.
Yeah. And it was pretty cool to watch you do that because you were just working a lot, just naturally, trying a bunch of things, posting all the time.
Yeah, I was doing like 5 videos a week at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't work.
Fun.
Yeah. Which is the crazy part is it wasn't work, but I think what was really awesome about it is that it was really meaningful. I don't know if that's the right word, but just the connections that was being made through YouTube was really powerful. I mean, I was growing through your growth through it. And you brought me along as a guest on some of your segments and all that stuff. And I just remember the responses being overwhelming. And then whenever we'd do meetups, the people we would meet would be
meetups were pretty crazy.
They were unbelievable. Like the people we'd meet and just the stories they'd share and how much just us living life and kind of trying to share it was so, I guess, a blessing. Right? Is there anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I mean, we made legit friends.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, not even just like, it was really nice to do the meetups and get to see these people face to face and connect on that day. But yeah, I felt like I made genuine friendships outside of it. And I was lucky enough to be pregnant at the same time as 2 of them, 3 of them. Yeah. And yeah, it was really cool. It's like, for example, my love for journaling. I don't know anyone in my real life that shares that same passion. Or if I were to list off certain journals I'm really into, no one in my real life would know what that is. But these friendships that I made from YouTube, it's like they were right there with me. And we wouldn't have met. Geographically, it didn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, we never lived in the same state, country even, so that was really cool.
Yeah, it's funny because people still complain about like, when people aren't good neighbors anymore. And to a degree, I think that's true, but the internet is such a beautiful thing where it's hard to find people that are like you or that share your interests next door. I mean, they could be I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think the internet is a beautiful thing. And actually, that's a good segue to why we moved to Maui, because I was when I was working at Reebok, I was starting to become a little disenchanted, let's just say. It was, while I was there, it was awesome. I mean, it was just seeing all the things I believed in was really taken off. But then there was a period of time when it just stopped. I mean, the leadership was going in different directions, and the brand heat was going down. My mentor at the time, and now my best friend basically and brother, he moved to China. So there was a lot of things where I was like, oh, I need to move on. There's something that is not pulling me or not keeping me here.
Also, just to pause, I feel like people are often confused. They think that you used to work for CrossFit or that you were a trainer.
Yeah.
But Brandon was doing sports marketing for Reebok, just for some context.
Yeah, I did share that a little earlier. But
oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oops, okay.
It's okay. But yeah, so I was at Reebok doing a lot of Spartan race and CrossFit stuff. And I was having this existential crisis. We actually ended up going to Maui to vacation because, we got married in Hawaii, or in Oahu, on Honolulu. We
Honeymooned in Kauai.
Yes, thank you. We honeymooned in Kauai. And I'd never been to Maui.
Me
Even
neither.
growing up, I'd been to Kauai and stuff. So we wanted to check it out, and it was amazing. And we were both in the ocean, and I'm going to try to tell this quick story because we've told it a bunch of times. But in the ocean, I looked on the island. I was like, man, why couldn't we live a life like this? And with everything I was learning about the internet, right? Like you had this YouTube thing going, and the connections were amazing, and everything I was hearing from these really well-respected tech futurists or prognosticators or whatever you call them, they were saying that the future of job security, especially with automation and now AI, had to bring that up, of course, is that these connections are what's going to be human, and it's what's going to be job security in a sense. So I looked and I was like, well, you know what? Maybe there's a path here. People are being rewarded all the time for living this kind of lifestyle that is enviable or desirable or whatever, right? To escape the grind of the work, which I really felt at the time. So I leaned over and I was like, hey, what do you say about living someplace like this? And you responded with, get out of my brain.
Something like that. Because I was having the same thought, and I'm like, oh, you and I aren't risk takers. Man, I would love to live here. I loved the pace of Maui. Growing up in New York and then living in Seoul, everything is just so fast, and there's so many people. And even Oahu, I feel like, is a little bit, there's too many people for my liking. But on Maui, it was the perfect middle ground of like Kauai and Oahu. And it just felt like I was so at peace that whole vacation. And I was with my sister and her now husband, but they were just dating back then. And everything was so like, this is what I wanted. But I also knew that we're not risk takers. Like, what would we do here? I didn't ever think YouTube would become like a job, or I didn't think of it as like a means of our livelihood or whatever. And I almost didn't even bring it up to you because it didn't seem like something that we would actually action. So I remember thinking like, oh, I would love to live here, and not, oh, I want to retire here one day, but like, I want to live here now. And then so when you looked over at me and you said that, I was really confused because I was like, was I thinking out loud, or did I actually say that I wanted to live here? Because it was so crazy that the timing of you saying that was when I was having that exact thought.
So to keep making this long story shorter, we had that moment, and then within that week we had probably 7 other moments, like the most random moments. I mean, the trailer for Moana
came out that week. And
and then I saw this post, and it was, I saw this turtle. Anyway, very specific.
We're not like signs people. I've said this before in other videos where we're not like, oh, let's look for signs. Like we're not really.
So like it was more so the quantity and specificity of the signs where we're like, okay, God, let's consider it. And so we kept considering it, praying about it, and then eventually got to the point where my best friend, Chad, and my mentor at the time, we visited them in China, and he's like, you should do it. It's a great idea. So we decided to do it, and we basically took the next year-ish to transition, and we moved to Maui. And we had all these grand ideas. We had the year to think about it. We're like, okay, well, what should we do? This is a job now, which is part of the problem, probably looking back. Well, we got this has to support our livelihood. What could we do that's of value that could be done in exchange for money.
Yeah, already just thinking about it.
I know your butthole is clenching.
Energy level is just dropping right now.
So that's a little preview of all the suffering we went through while we were there for 3 years. But it was still valuable because what we did was we were like, okay, we really took a good inventory of what is it is resonating with people. What are you good at? What do you care about? And I think in constantly mulling over this, people are commenting that she seems like a big sister, or she's got this calming, soothing presence, and just feels like this heart of love that, I don't know, these are my words, but that just people felt that, right? I mean, there was even some tears at a meetup where they really wished you were a family, right? So there's this bond that people feel with you, and we're like, oh, what? I mean, we have also heard that you feel like a counselor in a way.
Oh yeah, I've heard that from a lot. Or you should go into counseling, or you should be a teacher. I mean, that was...
Yeah, so it's all kind of...
That was my life goal before this whole YouTube thing anyway. Like, I always wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, this is great. I see a lot of people do it online. Let's go that direction. So we went to Maui. But I guess now that I'm thinking about it, it's not even just that. We're like, okay, well, let's make sure we also make it look epic because we're in Maui. You know, we took like 6 months to travel to get there or something like that.
Oh,
right?
yeah. We went to... So when we left Korea, we were traveling Southeast Asia and visiting friends and family. Yeah, so we were like trying to be travel vloggers. Oh my gosh.
So it's like travel / food /
like,
I mean, like
all the equipment we hauled around with us.
It did nothing with it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's funny. It was just the immaturity we had back then about like, what's that quote? They say you overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be done in 10 years. That's human nature. And that definitely, does that apply? If you overestimate what can be done in a year?
I don't know.
And underestimate? Yes, no, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes. Because we went in thinking, we're going to do everything and it's going to be amazing. And then
it's like, should we vlog every day? Like every new place we're visiting? And on top of that, are we sharing these big life lessons? And it was just so overwhelming because we didn't have one direction, right? We just wanted to do so much, but didn't know where to start.
Yeah. And I think the irony in all this is that eventually what we did is we set up this company, which we still have, and I'm doing other things with it, but it's called Above the Waves because it's a line from one of the songs that helped us to make this decision, which is called Oceans. But essentially it's a little nod to the story of Peter stepping off the boat to walk on water. Right? And it's the middle of a storm. Jesus meets them on the water and is like, hey, don't be afraid. And then Peter, in this terrifying situation, is like, hey, if it's you, let me get on the water with you. Right? And then he walks on water, which is amazing. And then he starts to look at the chaos around him and starts to sink. That's what happened.
That's literally our story.
Yeah, we went in thinking like, yeah, we're gonna walk on water. We're gonna focus on Jesus, like on the important things.
I'm gonna learn how to surf and learn how not to drown. But boy, did we get beat up over there. Huh?
I mean, it was 3 months of chaos. We were
3 years.
3 years of chaos. So we were there, going through hell in paradise.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of it all, I think. So Jen absolutely got burnt out.
Yes.
Because there was too much chaos.
Yeah.
In so many different ways. That's the bottom line. Whether it's worries about money or how we can grow the channel or what we're supposed to do.
Or like how am I trying to help people when I have so many issues myself, and
exactly.
I had this belief that I needed to get everything, like all my ducks in order before I could help anyone. But
exactly.
it's like I barely knew how to swim, but I wanted to help everyone from drowning, right?
Yeah. So that was a very tough time, and I think Jen still gets triggered about it.
Yeah, seriously. Like you could probably tell from the energy in this video. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. I really don't want to talk about this. But it's good. It's time.
Yeah.
But for sure, I get very triggered. I would get triggered even when really kind people would DM me and be like, "Are you coming back to YouTube? When are you coming back?" I'm like, do not bring up that word to me. I mean, of course I don't say this, but just to kind of give you a feel for how it's been for me. It's tough. I mean, it was an undoing for us.
She's up early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our daughter. We're hoping she slept a little longer, but we'll see.
She might go back to sleep.
She might.
Anyway.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is it's not like we didn't learn things. It's not like you didn't help people, but there was too much chaos. And I think that's a part of the learning. I mean, that's, while it's easy to look back and feel like a failure because it was a lot of suffering, I love that we came back to the story of Peter because, I mean, Peter did fall. And if you look at his life, he ultimately betrayed Jesus, saying he would never abandon him. And Jesus met his eyes the third time. He was like, I don't know this man. Right? So I think that's beautiful in a sense because we got beat up and we're still kind of getting beat up. We shared the story about Izzy this past year.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of getting beat up, which is funny, but and we're still having struggles. It's not easy to jump back into the job market after being away for a while. But still, what's beautiful is that in Maui, and this is significant because we were trying for 5 years.
To get pregnant in Korea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we were pregnant, we wouldn't have done something like that.
Yeah, we wouldn't have moved. You probably wouldn't have left your cush job.
Yeah. So in the midst of the struggle, we decided to still get serious and have a baby because the clock's ticking. We're not getting any younger and we want kids.
Yeah.
And we finally did have a kid.
I got pregnant 4 times
in
Maui.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I had a miscarriage and then I had Emmy and then a miscarriage and then Izzy. But Izzy happened real quick. And
that's right.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah. But I mean, this is not like a dramatic miscarriage. It was first month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we had Emmy, it was COVID time. So it was almost kind of an excuse to not keep churning water, right? And so we had this beautiful almost year of just being able to spend time with family because I was doing some stuff like helping out with the CrossFit business I was a part of and trying to do digital marketing things for other businesses.
And we were still regularly uploading because we were, because of COVID, like a lot of things were shut down and some of these beaches and resorts we'd go to, there'd be nobody there. So you and I would set up and we would vlog.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
leading up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were still producing content up until we had Emmy.
Yeah, still kind of a scattershot approach to it. But yeah, I guess I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So there's some of that maybe on there. I don't know.
I think so.
Okay. But we did have a wonderful pregnancy. It was like a magic pregnancy for you. Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was very relaxing.
Yeah.
I didn't have random people coming up trying to rub my belly.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was like the perfect excuse to just cocoon and be at home.
Yeah.
Like not too many social engagements and just being able to go to beaches and beautiful places and not be crowded with people. It was it was like a year-long baby moon almost, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so good. Yeah. So then we had Emmy and it took us a little while, but we started to get a little stir crazy there because even though it was wonderful to have that extra separation for a time and enjoy that little oasis, after time, there wasn't really momentum being built up in any specific direction. We did have some close friends there, but...
I mean, to that too, I think all of our close friends, we made at the gym.
Yes.
And then there was a period of time where we weren't allowed to go to the gym anymore.
Yeah.
And also, I was a little bit paranoid too about catching COVID pregnant, or if Brandon caught COVID, like he wouldn't be allowed to be in the hospital with me, and the thought of me delivering by myself without you. So I was very, very careful about isolating myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it did eventually get to the point where it's like, what is with the madness right now? It's like the 2 weeks to stop the curve or something like that ended up turning into like 3 years or something. And I think this was 2020. She was born August and we probably left, when did we leave?
December 2021.
Yeah. So this was like, when did we leave? She was like over a year old, right?
Yeah, she was like about 15 months or something.
Yeah. So it was a year and it was still weird and hard. And for me, connection with people drives momentum in all things. So it just got to the point where I couldn't personally sustain it. And I think you were also pretty much ready.
Yeah, I wanted to die on Maui. I would not even consider leaving, remember? And then when you were
I
like,
forget all these things.
oh
yeah.
my gosh, I was like, babe, I want to die and I want to be cremated and I want you to scatter me in the oceans on Maui. And I'm like, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't feel this disconnection as much as Brandon did because I have no problem staying home. I like being home. But things were a little bit different after having Emmy too, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, another big thing was like we never found a church that we felt like we could call home on Maui, even though we tried several. So that was a big one. So apart from the close friends that we had, we didn't have this community that we wanted.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Family too. Everyone was so far. Even though we lived on Maui, it was like so hard to get anyone to come visit us because it was so far and expensive and whatever. So we definitely felt that itch to find our people, more people. And I remember, even though I said I would never want to leave Maui if we had to, what are some places we would consider? And we were only able to come up with two, which was Texas and Colorado. And I'd never been to either state.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of grew up a little bit in Texas because your dad was in the military when you were young.
I was so young. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brandon's been to Texas. And so we were thinking about that. And then we just happened to get on a FaceTime call with my brother during that time, remember? And my brother and I, like, we don't keep in touch regularly or anything. But I remember I tried to call him and he was like, oh, let me call you back. I'm at the airport. And so when we finally did connect, I was like, oh, what were you doing at the airport? And he was like, oh, Amy and I just came back from Texas because we were on a scouting trip to go look for homes. And we're like, whoa, Austin was where they were. And we're like, oh, should we consider Austin? And around that time too, you were like, oh, there's a lot of people moving over there. The big tech companies and the people that you were interested in, right? And so we started thinking about it. And after this FaceTime call, we're like, let's go to Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was simple as that.
Yeah, it was as simple as that. And then we started preparing for it. And what's funny is we beat my brother and his wife. They purchased a home here, but we ended up getting here before them.
Yeah.
So we got here last June and they arrived 2 months later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, part of their delay was they bought a new build. So
build.
they had to wait till it was done.
Yeah.
But yeah, we decided to leave, and we did. I think we decided, and we probably left a few months later. And we probably didn't leave as early as we could have because my parents actually had planned a trip.
That's right.
Which
They were
was-
going to come to Maui and stay with us the last month we were on Maui.
So it was great because, first of all, it was nice to have family there they'd never visited and to enjoy that last month. My parents bankrolling a lot of it because, anyway. And the most amazing thing was that packing. My mom was a rock star in helping us to move. If she wasn't there, because we were still, I mean,
Brandon, you already mentioned that I'm a terrible packer.
yeah,
so-
I know that. But I mean, even, it was my mom packing, but also our friends.
Oh my
Can you remember, like, do you remember?
gosh.
We were, we thought we were mostly there, but the day of that we had to leave, there was still so much to do.
There was so much to do, and we had so many of our wonderful friends come and rally around us. Like, we had one come over. Jayla came over with her daughter, so they were just playing with Emmy.
Yeah.
And then we had Mike and his family. They were just clearing out the fridge, like throwing stuff out, like deciding
That's
what
right.
to take.
Taking stuff, yeah.
And then Jim coming in, like, with his muscles, like picking up the air conditioners
Yeah.
and like loading whatever we couldn't sell, like
Yeah.
big ticket items. He was going to take to his house and take care of them for us. And then Scott too was
Packing our stuff and cleaning things up.
oh my God. Like and then Scott drove us to the airport.
That's right.
And if they were not there, I don't know how we would have
We would have missed our flight.
missed our
Or
flight.
we would have left a bunch of stuff. Well, we couldn't have left it in there because we had to get everything out.
Yeah, and then remember Jayla too. I left the keys with her, and she was like, "Don't worry, after you leave, I'll do a once over."
Yes.
So even after we left, we had someone there that was gonna check to make sure that we had everything, and I just got chills just thinking about that last day and how emotional it was.
Yeah, so we still had have great friends from there, and we miss them and so.
Yeah,
and
we
all
really
that.
missed them.
But the plan in moving to Austin was to actually, you were pregnant with Izzy at the time.
That's right. I was I was still in my first trimester. Because I just remember everything making me feel nauseous.
Yeah. And we decided to stop off in New York and have the baby in New York so that you can be around your mom.
Well, initially that wasn't the plan.
Oh.
We were like, we're going to go to New York because we packed up and we don't have a place in Austin yet. But before just going straight to Austin, I wanted to see my family.
Yes.
So my parents graciously let us stay with them. So it was me, Emmy, Brandon, and my parents in their 1-bedroom apartment in New York. And we didn't know how long we'd be there. So we were there for like 2 weeks, and then we went to Maryland for 2 weeks to see Chad and Gail and the kids.
Yeah.
And then we came back, and my desire was always, if we could, I would love to stay in New York and have Izzy. And Izzy was due in May 2022, so that I could have my mom and my sister there. And that was up in the air. We're thinking like, man, should we just rent a place in New York for a while? Should we just lease an apartment for a year? All of that was up in the air.
Yeah.
We just kept talking about it. And then we finally made the decision to have the baby in May. And then we ended up staying at my parents' until April. So we were at their place for 4 months. And then in April, Brandon got a remote job, and we moved out to an Airbnb for 2 weeks because we wanted to have our own space once the baby came.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Yeah. And it was gracious that your parents it was kind of wearing on everybody, the close proximity.
Yeah, of course.
So it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, tiny Airbnb, but the location was awesome. We had Izzy, and that was the beginning of the end.
And then Jessica, like my best friend Jessica wasn't too far, and she would just come and take Emmy to go play, and she had a lot of the baby stuff that she, gave to me to have for Izzy. It was magical in a lot of ways, even though it was really hard.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
So
you said that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the end. I mean, Izzy. I mean, even the pregnancy was difficult.
It was very tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first pregnancy, part of it, the reason it was magical is because we were alone. It was just us. You can rest whenever you wanted to and stuff. But with kids, it's just not that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how we would have survived if we didn't have the help.
That's right.
Right, because you were miserable.
Yeah.
And Emmy was being a kid.
Yeah. Less than 2-year-old. Yeah, seriously. I was thinking, I worked out for both pregnancies.
Yeah.
And if my mom wasn't around to play with Emmy,
that's right.
I don't know how you and I would have gone to work out together.
Yeah.
So we got to go to CrossFit like every other morning.
Yeah.
It was great. And then
I think that just brings us to Austin, right?
Yeah. So then, okay. And then we were back and forth between, should we just get an apartment here and stay for the first year and have the help and have people around us, family around us, or do we just go to Austin? And you were really pushing for us to just go to Austin.
Yeah, New York, was as great as it was to have your family and friends and stuff. I don't like New York.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we were trying to look at a place to stay for a year, and just to have a washer and dryer, which is kind of like a must for you.
Yes. I'm not going to laundromat with like children's clothing that need to be washed almost daily.
Yeah. You're looking to pay like $300-400 a month.
And it's like a rundown apartment. It's not even
well,
a
at
new
that point,
place.
it's probably decent. We didn't even get to see those, but we were looking at something that was outside of our budget, but well below that.
Yeah.
And they were not great. It was tiny. Parking wasn't even guaranteed, really, in a lot of these places. And I mean, you New Yorkers, I applaud you for living that kind of life, but it's just not for me. And just overall, it wasn't great. So thankfully, you agreed to move.
Yeah, I was nervous too because I was like a month and a half postpartum, and to just think about moving and settling in a brand new place where we don't know. Okay, outside of one college friend of yours.
Yeah.
Okay, a few college friends of yours. We didn't have anyone close here. And to think of me trying to recover and rest and raise these 2 children was very scary to me. But I was like, okay, let's just go.
Yeah.
We'll go and figure it out like we have been.
Yeah.
So Izzy was a month and a half when we got here.
Yeah.
And
my mom came to the rescue again, kind of met us here shortly after we arrived and helped us to unpack. And it was great until, it wasn't great because the challenge we were having with Izzy is that,
oh boy,
most people experience this with their second child, is that they're much more temperamental. I mean, even the friends we just met this past Sunday, they have 2 daughters, similar age to ours. And basically they were saying that the second one had colic and for 9 months would just scream nonstop. And it was, I don't know how bad Izzy was relative to other people, but we were definitely at wit's end.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I don't know, Mom, if you're listening to this, I'm not throwing you under the bus here, but it's so funny. My mom's so confident. And then she's like, oh, let me sleep with Izzy. And she ended up not sleeping much that night as well.
Yeah, we get to a point where Izzy needed to be bounced, and not just like a gentle bounce, but like knee deep bouncing. Like, I would be sweating, and then I would be like, okay, it's your turn. And then Brandon would have to take over. And the second we would put her down, she would wake up and just start screaming.
Yeah.
So unless she was literally next to me, like sleeping on my boob, she's not sleeping.
Yeah.
It was miserable. God.
Yeah. So she was already a very difficult baby to begin with. And then the bacterial meningitis thing.
And then not even 2 months after we got here.
She almost died. Which, we won't go into that story because I just recapped it. And
Yes.
Yeah. And I think now is a good chance or a good time to introduce our new website, graceandgiggles.co. So if you haven't seen that and us posting it all over our socials, graceandgiggles.co, it's the one article that I have recapping our 1 year of battling through that, because it was a harrowing journey. Lots of twists and turns. And we're just so thankful for her because she's so cute now.
She's so cute.
Yeah, so difficult still, but so cute. And she's enjoying life, and
she's a really happy child.
She's a happy baby.
Yeah.
Considering all of what happened, it's amazing.
Like, I look at her, I'm like, did you really go through what you went through? Because in so many ways, it looks like nothing's wrong with her, even though she suffered the brain injury and stuff. And the way that you look at her and the way that she understands what you're saying. And Izzy has always had this, I mean, especially with you, like, she's had this look in her eyes, right? Like, when you looked into Izzy's eyes, it's like you're peering into her soul. And even when Izzy got sick, right before she went downhill with the seizures, Brandon and Izzy had this moment, and thank God I had it on video. But you were looking into her eyes, and that's when her breathing started really laboring, and you were telling her, hey, we're here, like, no matter what happens, Jesus loves you, and no matter what happens, and even if you can't express yourself right now, he knows what you're feeling, and he has you. And you were saying all these things, and she was so locked into your eyes. And she was really tracking you, and she was barely even looking at me.
Yeah,
and
up until that point, she was pretty much incoherent or just suffering through whatever she was suffering through,
And the song that we were playing while she was going downhill, that was the same song that was on repeat for like 10 hours because I wanted to push Izzy out to the song. And it's such a beautiful song. It's called So Will I. And there's two versions. They're both from Hillsong. But one of them, like a dude singing it, don't listen to that one. You got to listen to the other one.
With Taya or something. We'll link it in the YouTube comment.
So that song. Anyway, I'm telling the story because 2 nights ago, I was bathing Izzy. And usually I have like a little bath time playlist for her, which is like all of her fun kid songs. But that day, I just really wanted to listen to that song. So I had that song on repeat while I was bathing Izzy. And I was just looking at her, and she was just looking up at me, and I was just sobbing into her face. Like, I was bent over holding her face because she was just so happy. And then at first, when she saw me start to cry, she was like kind of not giggling, but she was like smiling and making sounds because it was a different face, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of anticipating what you might do.
Yeah, what I might do, exactly, because she thinks I'm the funniest person.
She's so...
She thinks I'm so funny. So I think she's like, ooh, this is new. But then I just could not hold it. It's almost like all the stuff that I had pent up. Like, I was just looking down at her like, it looks like nothing happened to you. You're so pure and so happy. And I was like I was like washing her hair, but like crying on it. Like there was like snot coming out. It was just this whole emotional thing. And I just couldn't get out of that bath. And I was just crying on her and listening to that song. Why am I telling the story? I don't know why I'm telling the story, but
I mean, there's something in that where to kind of sum up the past 6 years, we've lived in a ton of chaos. And in this recap that I wrote, I called Izzy the champion of chaos because there was a lot of chaos that happened to her, and she actually causes a lot of chaos herself. But
okay, I think that's why I got there, because I was just thinking, like, you look at her and she's so happy, and you would not think that all of these terrible things happened to her. And she's so resilient, and I'm just so inspired by her. And it's not necessarily even because of what she It's just who she is. It's just who God created her to be. It's so pure, right? She's not trying to impress us. She's not trying to show us how strong she is. And yet I look at her and like every day, I mean, it's cheesy as it could sound. It's like she's a living miracle. Like really, truly. And I think I got so worked up while I was bathing her because I saw that when I was looking into her eyes when I was bathing her 2 nights ago. And I was just listening to the music and brought me right back into that hospital room and what it took to bring her into this world and to see her in front of me and the fact that she's alive.
Yeah.
I'll never get over that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I would imagine that's how God looks at you too, you know?
That's the other thing too, where I'm like, what even is that? Like, I can't make sense of it.
Yeah.
Like, how can he look at me the way that I look at Izzy? And I think I love Izzy so much, but I can't imagine a perfect version of that love, right? Because as much as I love Izzy and I think she's so cute, a lot of times I'm just like, I need it to be 7:30. I need to get rid of you. I need to put you in your crib. I need you off me. I don't want anyone touching me. And yeah, this unconditional love that's readily available and someone desiring me and wanting me, I still don't understand.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I mean, it has been a tough 6 years, and I'd like to think, I know, we've been through our own chaos, obviously the Izzy stuff, but stepping out in faith, floundering, we had our own setbacks and beat ups, and
so many.
We have some battle wounds for sure, but God, I mean, to imagine that God is not even imagine, to know that he's really proud of us for stepping off that boat, and when he picks up Peter, he's like, why do you doubt? I see why. Because, there's always love. There's always joy. And while on paper it's hard to boast about where we're at, I'm really proud of us too. I mean, like, when I think about you, you had a different future, right? You could have married more securely in terms of wealth and finances or whatever. But I think you were attracted to me because of
your journal.
Because of my journal.
Journal.
Because whatever God did in me is what you were drawn to. Yeah. I think he loves that,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even the way that I parent, maybe not the wisest way to spend money right now as we're still trying to figure things out. I see the joy that Emmy has in art right now, right?
Yeah.
And I just, much like you've done for me, I just want to support everything for her. So right now she's obsessed with stencils. I'm like, I want to get you all the stencils, and I want to get you the best crayons. Like, we're not using Crayola, we're not using construction paper. I need the best paper, I need the best supplies for you, because I just want to just enhance your curiosity for this and just to provide you all the tools. And as I'm doing that, I was just thinking about even when we were in Korea and I was just starting out with YouTube. Like, I remember I was editing on my tiny little MacBook Air, and I would upload one video and my computer would run out of storage and the screen was small, and you didn't like my posture, so you got me this new desk setup, and then you just surprised me with a MacBook Pro. And like, I just remember I had no idea you were doing that, but I opened the door and this MacBook showed up and I was really confused. And when I talked to you about it, you were just like, this is nothing. I just want to help you excel. Like, this is just a tool in what you can do. And I just remember being so floored by that. And you've always been that way with me. Whenever you see me get excited about something, even wanting to review makeup, you're like, just think of this as like a college tuition. You would pay money for education, right? So let's set a budget and go buy all the things you want and just review it and just treat it as an experiment. And you have always had this abundant mindset to be so supportive. And I know that you taught me that. I think I already kind of had it, but I would have probably been much more reserved and not wanting to waste money. And I'm still that way. But I think the abundance that you showed me, it's so much easier for me to extend that to Emmy. And I just want to watch her flourish. Yeah. So anyway, to your point.
And I think what we've come across in this journey is a different kind of abundance. Right? Because initially we're like, oh yeah, internet business, abundance and money, and we'll be fine, and we'll be able to live this lifestyle that we want. And none of that happened. And I think that was a good thing, right? Because when I look back, I think my main motivation was to build my own kingdom. And along the way, if there's anything I've learned, it's what is of real value and worth. And of course, there's still so much to learn, but this idea of building your barn, like in the Bible says, just accumulating and having our safety placed in just possessions, right, or status. Even now, we're definitely sitting in some environments where abundance in terms of stuff or experiences is not an issue with some people, but we wouldn't trade the connection, right? The connection with people and the spirit for any of that. There's a lot more to uncover in that, so I won't really dive into it, but to answer the question of who we were and who we are now, we're more mature. We've been through some stuff, and I think we have a better understanding of what's important in life. So I think that's what we want to share here. I think that, we gave our YouTube channel a facelift, and it's no longer about Jenn.
And makeup.
Though we're going to cover that. Yeah, we were going to.
No, I was going to say, I think after mom life too, this is kind of a tangent. I feel like after mom life, I have I have very little interest in trying out a bunch of beauty products. I just need some stuff that's cleanly formulated, that works, and I can put on quickly. And I do want to share eventually, leading a busy lifestyle or whatever, being a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids. What are those things that I feel like are worth the time and investment? So I would love to eventually be able to share that. Yeah. I know people have asked me for baby recommendations or toddler stuff, and those are all things that still excite me. So I think there's still an element of the things that we will share that we still very much care about, like organization, intentional living.
Yeah, exactly. Beauty. So that was the point I was going to try to make, is that while parenting is the topic because it is the central component of our lives, it doesn't change who we are or what we like. If anything, it's another part of life that continues to shed the things that just don't matter all that much, right? While you had the bandwidth to experiment with the makeup and stuff, now you have different focus and priorities, but you're still you. Whatever people enjoyed from you people love your product recommendations because you're so thoroughly well researched. You have a very good reason why you like them, and it's you do it tastefully. So that's going to still be the case. You sharing the things that you love, the things that we're grateful for. #gratitude. And I don't know. There's some people that like dating my husband. I don't know exactly. I think part of it's because we were in Korea exploring, but part of it is they liked us interacting, which we're doing plenty of here. And while you're not dancing, you're still dancing with fear.
Literally.
Literally, all the time. Fear and control, I would say, because that's like the flip side to that same coin.
Yep.
So it's different, but the same. And I think it's great that we got to give the people that are like, where have you gone and what are you doing back?
Yeah, what are you doing in Texas?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. They just have a lot of questions. So I'm really glad for the comment that Tina left us.
Yeah. And
Tiffany. And again, graceandgiggles.co is where Jen's going to probably start to share product stuff because I'm going to help you do that. You can also look up Izzy's journey in this past year. And I also want to shout out Susanna. Well, all the people that subscribed, but also Susanna.
Oh, Susanna.
Yeah, she
paid and signed up for a 1-year subscription. And I think that's kind of cool. Because even before we were talking about, let's do something,
Like a late night episode.
Yeah.
Where probably not on video, but setting up mics, maybe having a drink and just
maybe getting a little more raw and unfiltered. It always felt, because it's funny, when we were doing YouTube and we were doing the coaching thing, we went a little too raw and unfiltered for YouTube's, for sure.
That's true.
Not to say that people didn't appreciate it and we didn't learn anything, but
yeah, there were definitely moments where I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't want that living up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think people are invested in us and they're willing to come and do that and share in the reality of parenting or
no,
life.
I mean, there are some stuff that we talk about late night after
Yeah.
some drinks. I'm like, oh my gosh, this needs to be a podcast
That's
episode.
true.
And Brandon's like, yeah, like a Patreon, because we're not putting this publicly.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is that most people that know you don't know you. I don't know.
True.
I've never gotten to mention this before, but
Even Brandon.
yeah, even me. I only see Jen shine and just go ham on stuff when she's around her family.
My sister.
Sorry. Her biological family.
Oh.
So like your sister especially, but
Well, my
also
brother
Justin.
too.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sometimes you're like just sharing stuff and it is such gold that I really wish people can see it. And I'm hoping that we can see glimpses of it in the, I don't know, soon to be named.
What do you mean specifically? Oh, I don't know. I guess like certain impersonations that I would be shy to do.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or
Just
I don't know, whatever.
when you're able to share in an unadulterated manner, it is
Even name calling, like things that you would never think would
Yeah.
come out of my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. So, Susanna, we're going to have some stuff for you. Since you're our one paid one, please let us know where you want us to start. But I love this process. And for those of you that are going to stick by us, we love you. If you have any questions about that you want us to go into further from the stories today, please leave it in the comment below. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Love you so much.
And thank you, Izzy, for sleeping through another episode. Right? Like
She knows or something.
she knows something happens on Tuesdays.
It's so good.
Because usually she'd cry and then we're like, oh, we got to get her. But I was like, I trust that she will go back to sleep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she did it again.
Yeah. So thank you, Jesus, for giving her peace.
So good. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Bye, guys.
Bye.